Hi friends, it's Miss Susan and I'm back today with another family art break. Today we're going to be having fun with melted crayons. We're going to do some melted crayon art. So supplies you will need some cardboard. This is the back of a cracker box. A couple of pieces. These are going to be like your canvas. You're going to need some crayons. You're going to take the labels off. It takes a second, but you just sort of use your fingernails to peel away the paper surrounding the crayon. As you can see, it peels off. It takes a little time, but it is totally worth it. See, here we are, peeling the crayons. So peel them all the way off. You're going to need a cookie sheet. I have this old rusty one. Don't ask me how it got rusty. It just did. A box grater or a hand grater, just something that you can grate your crayons on. And I will show you how to clean this up in the end so you don't have a waxy mess when you're done. What else? So paper, aluminum foil, and a hairdryer. And then some optional things are some paints if you want to paint your foil. And I'm going to experiment with cookie colors, trying to see if we can get some shapes on our crayon art. Okay, so once you have peeled the labels off your crayons, you're going to grate them on this box grater or whatever kind of grater you have. I have a piece of paper down here on top of my cookie sheet that I will be using later. And you just very carefully start grating. Now, strangely enough, these grates are kind of, the grated wax gets kind of staticky. And you'll find as you grate them that they stick to the inside of the box grater. So some are going to come out like this, but more are going to be inside of your box grater. So you kind of have to let them come out. And they're so wacky because, like I said, they are kind of staticky. Now, a bit of advice. Don't do this in front of an open window because a good breeze will blow crayon wax all over you. And it does clean up pretty easily if it's not too hot of a day, but really nobody wants that. So I'm going to keep grating and I'll be right back. Okay, you'll see that I have grated lots of crayons into lots of different colors. This might be a little bit of overkill. I might have done too many, but it didn't take long. It took about half an hour to grate all of these. You can probably do a lot less. I just wanted to make several examples for everyone. They're really pretty. The technique we're going to use today is to melt it in the oven or toaster oven with really low heat. So I have my oven set to like 200 right now, which I think is one of the lowest temps it'll go. I might actually just turn it off when I put the art in, but really low oven. Take your cardboard and a piece of foil. And you're going to line your cardboard from the recycling with the foil. This is going to be like your canvas. It's okay if it gets a little crinkly. And you can do it any size you want, just depending on what you feel like doing and the size of your cookie sheet, right? So like this. Now, before we move on to actually creating the art, I wanted to talk about inspiration. Now that the library is back open, we can go into the building now, we can request books, we can pick up books to check out. I wanted to bring a few books about crayons and about artists to sort of give us some inspiration about what kind of art we'd like to make. So the first thing I have here, which is pretty cool, I'm not going to read it, I'm just going to show you the wide variety of books that are out there about different art forms. It's pretty cool. Crayon Man is about the adventure of crayons. So believe it or not, there's actually a book about the man who invented crayons. His name was Edwin Binney. Cool, right? So if you are interested in sort of like scientists, I guess, inventors, that's a great book to read. And then I was also sort of inspired by some of the great books out there about famous artists, and that maybe we can be inspired by some of their art in our our crayon wax art. I'm kind of excited to try this. The first person I was thinking about is Jean-Michel Basquiat, and there was a book that came out a few years ago called The Radiant Child about his life as a young child. So he was an artist in the 80s with Puerto Rican roots, Puerto Rican and Haitian roots. He grew up in New York City, and he started out as like a graffiti artist, and then he totally shook up the art world in New York City with his style and his just sort of bold art. There's also a really cool book of poems. Well, it's a poem that Maya Angelou wrote, and she set the poem to Basquiat's paintings. And I was looking through my cookie cutter collection and was totally inspired by my dinosaur cookie cutter. And I was like, hey, maybe we could be inspired and make something in the style of Jean-Michel Basquiat and make something beautiful that way. There's also lots of books out there about some of our more traditional artists that I think would lend really well to melted wax crayon art. Like this one, Where's the Frog? There's a frog hidden in all of these Monet paintings. And again, Monet, sort of the impressionist, blurry sort of color mixes, I think would make a really beautiful crayon painting. Also, I was thinking about Vincent van Gogh. Here's a book about Vincent when he was little. Vincent Can't Sleep. So there's all these really interesting books out there that will engage you about artists that aren't just, your old-fashioned books of art, which we also have too. You can come and just take a look at their art, plain art books, which is great too. But there's also lots of fun books that sort of take the art and make it fun, playful, and personal. So let's, think about artists that we might like to emulate. And maybe you could take a trip to the library with your folks or parents. Take your kids to the library and let's find some cool books about artists and art, and ask the librarian. We'll help you find stuff. That's what we're there for. So if you want to be really fancy, really extra, and take this up a notch, you can paint your foil before you put the crayons on there. So I have a little bit of paint. I'm using non-toxic paint because we're putting it in the oven. Like, we don't want to put stuff in the oven that may or may not cook well. So let's start putting some of our melted crayons, or not melted crayons, shredded crayons on here. Now, you do not have to use the color that you painted. You can do whatever you wanted. So over these patches, just, I feel like Basquiat used a lot of dark colors. It was really bold, right? So let's try layering things on. That's why I shredded a lot of crayons, just to give us the opportunity to really see what would happen if we kind of went all in. I don't think you normally would have to, if you're just experimenting, I don't think you're going to have to use quite so much, but this is an experiment. So obviously the color that you want to show up last on top the most, you would put on top of the layers. So I'm feeling good about this, and I am going to try to see what happens when you put this in a super low temperature oven. Now here's my wax Basquiat sort of painting. It turned out cool. I really love where we put the different color crayons over the monotone paint over here, the yellow paint with the different colors about it. The layering is cool. Now, moment of truth about this dinosaur. Let's see. Not perfect, but I think that, look, It kind of looks like a fossil here, doesn't it? I still kind of like it, even though it isn't perfect. I mean, it is, we are using crayons, so it's not going to be perfect, but I like how it's sort of hidden in there in plain sight. And I bet you if I practice a little more, we might be able to make that more pronounced. Maybe a little more wax next time, and maybe I got to take it out a little. I maybe let the wax dry a little bit too much before I pulled it. But I think it's kind of cool. Okay, everyone. So I experimented a bit with this. I explored some different artists besides Jean-Michel Basquiat. I made a Monet and tried to do a Van Gogh, and I kind of did something on my own, and here are our results. Now for the Basquiat, I ended up relayering some wax on there, and it turned out really cool. And that's a thing to think about. If you pull it out of the oven and you feel like you want to do more, you can just wait for it to cool for a second and then put more layers on. So as you see, you can kind of see that dinosaur in there. It's kind of cool. It's like a textured graffiti dinosaur. I think it's kind of cool. It turned out neat. Here's my Monet's garden. Now it's the foil is so shiny that it's not always coming through on here. So like over here, this is all green. It looks kind of shiny, but it's actually very cool. So you'll see there's the water, and if you remember Monet's garden, there's all these yellows and pinks and greens sort of surrounding it. It turned out pretty neat. Then I just sort of was messing around with some sort of like Rothko-esque sort of non-representational art, and I think that turned out really cool. It's got a ton of texture too. I'm not sure which way is up. I gotta figure that out. That's a good thing about art, right? I think I like it this way. Yeah, yeah. Now I have to show you my failure. I tried to do Starry Night and I forgot about it in the oven. Wah, wah. So don't forget about it. It turns from cool textured wax to a great big blob in a matter of seconds. So definitely don't walk away and pour yourself a cup of coffee or go to the bathroom while these are in the oven. It just doesn't end well. And I did want to mention that in order to clean everything up, that's where your hair dryer comes in. Have a paper towel handy. Use some newspaper or some more foil or some paper. I'm using a paper bag here. So your box cutter, your cookie cutters, anything that has the wax stuck on it that you don't want, grab a paper towel, put it over a bag or something, turn on the hair dryer on high, give it a second and you'll see all the wax starts to melt. Wipe it with a paper towel. It's not so hot that it's going to burn you. It's okay. I do not recommend washing these in hot water because it'll melt and go down your sink and then you're going to have waxy residue in your pipes, and I don't think that that's a good idea. So blow dryer, paper towel to get the majority of that wax off before you wash it. So I hope you enjoyed watching. Something a little different, something a little fun, and they really do maintain their colors for a really long time. So I'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.